standing in front of one of my solar rigs. This rig here has 16 panels, 1 meter by 2 meter. I believe they're 350 watt panels each. I've got 1, 2, and 3 of these rigs. Altogether, this system is about 20 kilowatts. And in today's video, I want to give you guys just a little tour of this system. And we are officially 100% energy independent right now, which is a pretty awesome feeling. It's been a long time coming to get this set up. One of the challenges I had early in the season on my little off-grid project here is I was gonna put all the inverters and charge controllers of this system in my Quonset. I've got a steel Quonset that's kind of by the other house that we live in here. But that didn't really make sense, and so that prevented us from getting it done early on because I wanted to wait until this building was up, which is the building that is next to the house that has not been built yet, but we finished this before the winter, and so that's kind of why it was delayed. And throughout the summer, for all the construction here, we were running generators. I had this wicked portable solar system from an awesome company called Portable Electric. I've had this rig, which has been a huge help. It's allowed me to have my internet on while we're live streaming and charging batteries and all kinds of other stuff. But when it comes to running compressors and more heavy duty stuff for the needs we have up here, you need to run generators. And in fact, I've had to run the generator to power my well, which pumps water 85 feet uphill, 650 feet of line, 1 1/4 prime 100. So that meant that every time I wanted to pump water up to my holding tank so I could have gravity feed to the various needs for water I have here, which is not full on because my gardens haven't been built fully, but still need water. It means I got to run the generator, which has been a pain in the butt. And now we are fully operational. Actually, at this very moment, we are not 100% operational. And that just means one of the inverters isn't, there's a little complication with that inverter, not a big deal, it'll be fixed. But we're actually only using 1/3 of the capacity of this. So we have the solar panel rigs all functioning, everything's going into the system, but I can only use about 6 kilowatts right now, which is more than I need. But yeah, in this video, I'm going to give you guys a little tour of the system, explain how it's working or how it's going to work. And I just wanted to remind you that right now, if you're not a member of From the Field, you should be, because this is where I put all the videos of what's going on in this homestead there. And I'm going to give you a little preview of the system here and a bit of what we've been working on this season. But right now we are bringing back our lifetime membership offer at FromTheField.tv. So for a single price, one-time pay, you can become a member of FromTheField.tv, and this offer only goes till the end of October. We only do this offer a handful of times a year, and right now we're opening it up again. So if you want to become a lifetime member From the Field, you can do that. So that's open, and yeah, that's again where I post everything. So just a quick overview of From the Field before we get into this. When I started From the Field, I was doing a lot of traveling around the world making videos at awesome farms. And the first year From the Field, and it launched in 2019, that's exactly what I did. I traveled around mostly the United States and made a lot of videos with a lot of awesome experts out there. Then come 2020, when some current events that have brought us to the point we're at now, all starting with 2 weeks to flatten the curve. When that whole thing started, I was planning, prior to that, was planning to do another big trip in the United States. And so that all of a sudden couldn't happen. And so what I did to create really epic long-form educational content for From the Field was I documented the creation of a cooperative farm, which many of you know of as SHTF Farm. And we built all the infrastructure of the farm, talked about how the cooperative worked, videos, dozens and dozens of videos of of the kind of the day in and day out of setting that farm up. Now for this year, my context has changed a little bit more. I purchased last year in September, I purchased this property, which is 40 acres, and with the plan to go off grid, which is something that I've always wanted to do. And so at the beginning of this season, call it, my From the Field journey was documenting the creation of this off-grid homestead, which has the 4 primary components of what an off-grid homestead should have, and we're working towards it right now. It's not all complete, but food, water, energy, shelter. And so those are my goals, and that's still what I'm documenting. So I'll be taking you guys through the creation of everything on this homestead. To what we really started with was the power system. So we got our power, that's done now, just a few minor tweaks to go. We've now got our water system complete. I've got a 300 and almost 400 foot well drilled in at the depth at the top of this mountain, which is super convenient, 50 feet behind where my house is going to go. And so that is finished. And we already have some partial shelter here because there was a home we moved into, a little cabin home we moved in when we bought this property, so that we could live there while we build our dream home. And so we've got that partially finished. And so the next stages of all these videos I put up at From the Field will be covering all those things. And so the food systems are the big next thing, and that's going to be what we're really going to hammer down on next season. So this winter, I decided to kind of keep my energy focused on those things, the power and the water primarily, because those are the things that are going to allow me to garden and set the gardens up next season. We already had a house to live in, so we focused our energy on this structure, which is amazing. And then as we carry through these videos, that's we're going to be completing those tasks. So I'm hoping by this time, by this time next year, I'll have a big passive solar home behind me. Not that big, but a nice size home. 2 levels. It's a 2-story walkout, passive solar, facing 15 degrees to the east. It's south, but 15 degrees tilted to the east, which makes us look out into this valley a little bit more, gives us a bit more view of the valley, and we still have the benefits of the solar gain. So let's go and kind of check out what's going on. So anyways, yeah, that offer for From the Field is up until the end of October 31st. So there'll be links in and around the video, links down below. Follow those if you want to go check out that offer. So right behind me, this is the build that we're doing here. Has a detached garage, if you will, with a greenhouse on the front of it, which is this, and then the home. And all the power is centralized into the garage here. We wanted to keep it out of the home, so there's no inverters or charge controllers or anything like that in the home. So the home is very clean as far as electricity is concerned. And it just kind of wanted to do it that way. It made more sense. We didn't have a big enough crew this year to finish the home, so we kind of went into a triage and was like, well, let's just finish this, because then we'll have the greenhouse and garage and have an office in here. We'll have that for the winter, and then we also got all of our power. So when it comes to construction, when we really hit the ground running in the spring, we still got at least another month of construction going, but when we hit the ground running in the spring, we'll have all the power for compressors and everything like that. We don't have to run any generators, which will be really nice. So yeah, this structure behind me, it's my concept, and I hired an architect to help me with it, but my concept of a garage, office, wood shop, and all that, with a big passive solar greenhouse in front of it. And so what you're seeing up top there is where the peak of the rafters will go, which are 28 feet long. They're 12-inch LVLs, 28 feet long, and they'll be notched, and so they'll have purlins in between them, if you will. And this is the passive solar greenhouse that I always wanted to create. So I'll give you guys a little tour of this, and then we'll go look at this power system. So the neat thing about this passive solar greenhouse is that it's connected to the office, and it's longer. So this is 40 feet long, and it is 20 feet wide. 42 feet long, I believe. And so there's windows that are like outside windows, basically, that look into the greenhouse when the greenhouse is finished. And there's a door from my office that walks out. There'll be a staircase that brings me into this greenhouse. And this greenhouse, I did something a little funky, is I made 2 tiers to it. And the reason I did that is because the natural grade of the ground runs down. And so instead of just piling up more earth in here for the climate battery, which I'll explain in a second, I wanted to have it come down so that I would actually gain a little bit more on this wall. This is all south-facing concrete wall with earth behind it, compacted earth. So it's also a thermal mass. And if you've watched any of my hundreds of videos over the years in my passive solar greenhouse in Kelowna, which we've sold and we no longer live there, you've seen this concept. And this is a climate battery system. So we've got this is the intake, and this will all be connected to some air ducts that pull air down and distribute it in the ground, and then the outtake is there. The reason I did this one so much better is I made the earth battery really thick and compact, and I used some different material for it on this run. I actually used a 12-inch SDS, which is a sewer pipe, as the header, which is about 3 feet below where I'm standing, and same down there, which will pull a lot more air in. And then all the pipes that connect the two are big O piping, just standard kind of weeping tile. And then but there's 2 rows coming into that SDS. So since that SDS is so wide, I was able to do a row of pipes that went down right along the bottom when we filled this into the bit of sand just to get on top of the rocks. And then we filled with a couple more feet, and then we put another row of pipes, and they all go along here. And we compacted sand and wet it as we went. So this thermal battery is thick and strong and heavy duty and really, really well compacted. So my hope is that with this one, much better than my last one, is I actually get more thermal capacity. And I imagine that will be the case here. I'm in a much sunnier climate up on this mountain area of BC than I was in Kelowna, especially during the winter. And I've got this perfectly orientated to the south, and I've got a massive window or opening for the poly that goes all the way to the edge. So I get absolute maximum sunlight in here, also hitting this wall, charging that up. So huge amount of solar that's coming in here. And what's kind of sweet up here is you can see some of that blocking up there is going to be cut out, and that's the venting system. So the rafters will go right up against that beam up top. You can see a manufactured lumber beam there. Then there's a roof on top of that leans out. And then these are vents, and they're going to open up this way underneath the roof so rain can never get in. And that's how we'll vent this puppy. It'll all vent out there up at the top, and then these windows down here will open, and heat will just fly right out there. And we had to do some interesting framing with creating a soffit so that the roof on the garage comes out and ventilates and vents as a roof would. But, this isn't going to ever take rain, so it doesn't need flashing in here per se as a roof area would. But we did have to do some interesting design work in there with the help of my team here. So yeah, that's what this is all about. Let's go and check out the main system. So coming in here, we've got this is a door. This will be a man door, garage door. These are the rafters that are going up, 12-inch LVLs. These things weigh about 500 pounds each. They're pretty intense. And over here is the system. Right now, I've got it covered in poly, and we've created this little frame around it because I've got a little space heater down here to keep these batteries warm, because we last night we got down to -5 Celsius, so we need to keep the batteries warm. If they go below freezing in there, then they'll shut off and they won't turn back on until it hits 10 Celsius. So right now this is just a temporary solution to keep it all covered up. But we've got batteries in here. These are called GYLL, G-Y-L-L batteries. They're 5.125 kilowatts each, and I have 18 of them. And they're on these racks. And then I've got my inverters and charge controllers and all that. No, I'm no electrician, and so I've had some really great guys here doing this stuff. And yeah, from the field videos, we get a lot more detail on all that. But that's basically how this all works. Now, the way this connects with the system is one of these inverters, which is currently the one that's operating, takes a third of the power, and then the other one takes 2/3 of the power. The reason we did that is that if I ever want to put in another rack, so I've got my 1, 2, 3 racks. If I ever felt the need to put another rack, I would put it right up there, and it would connect to this one. So these two are on one cable, tech cable that goes underground, comes together, wraps around, comes to the shop, goes into one of those inverters. And then this one is on its own inverter. And if I wanted to put another rig in, I could do it there and then connect it to that inverter. And it would just come to that one, wire through, and then come through all the stuff that we've put in the ground here. That's how the system is essentially functioning. And yeah, right now it's amazing. This is producing far more power than we can imagine using. Just the other day, I was pumping water uphill again, and I wanted just to see how much power it takes. And it was a cloudy day, very cloudy, overcast all day. And we started pumping water at about 4 o'clock, and no direct light hitting the panels whatsoever. And it takes about 2.5 kilowatts to pump water uphill. And we were pumping, and it didn't even touch the batteries. It was basically pumping that. We're basically in what's referred to as a floating state on this, is that once our batteries are charged and there's more solar coming in than we can use, some of the panels just turn off because they're floating. There's nowhere for that electricity to go, so it doesn't generate it. And we are basically just pumping all that water uphill, 85 feet of head and 650 feet of line on a 1.25 inch prime 100 line, and it wasn't even denting the system. So it's pretty amazing. And yeah, that's what's kind of, it's a very, very gratifying feeling knowing that I can move water around here and produce all the electricity I need here, and it's not even denting the system. And I mean, right now we are at about 10 hours of daylight, so we're coming up to the fall equinox, but up in this part of the world, we're getting, it's sun up is like 7 a.m. and then it's dark by 5:30, 5:45 maybe so far right now. And we're producing more power than we can use. Now that's a good sign, because when I designed this system, I planned it according to what I think I would need in the winter. Now, having said that, we are putting a generator in here. We've got a 13 kilowatt Isuzu diesel genset coming in here, which will actually be mounted on the back end of this wall, and it'll just pipe directly into the through the wall into the system there. We're going to put a little concrete pad for it to sit on. It'll be covered in a roof. We're going to insulate it around. But so that's just kind of like if my wife wants to do laundry on a cloudy day and it's nighttime in the winter or something like that. Worst case scenario. Also, this whole project here is about shit hitting the fan. So I want to be as energy, water, food resilient or anti-fragile as possible. But yeah, so the system was designed to produce as much power as I would need in the winter at the coldest and darkest part of the year. And all I gauged from that is I compared it to my last system in Kelowna. So again, I've had hundreds of videos there. You can just go back in YouTube or from the field even and watch all these videos that I've done there. But you may remember that I had a solar system on that home, which started as a grid-tied system, or just grid-tied, no batteries. And it was an 11.5 kilowatts of solar tied to the grid. We used a software application called AP Systems that just I could track, what was going on with the system, how much power I was producing a day, how much went into the grid, so on and so forth. And that basically subsidized our electricity bill for a number of years. I think we had that system for a total of 5 years. And in the last year, before I decided to move out here, I went and bought a couple Tesla power walls and put them in. So then we had 24 kilowatts of battery storage. So that was the system in a nutshell there. But when I designed this system, I said, okay, I looked at all of the statistical data I had of that system over the years. And I had quite a bit of it because I think it was almost 5 years we had that system. So I had a lot I could go on. Basically what I would do is I would look for the coldest and darkest parts of the year when the system was producing something. Because if it was producing nothing, it meant that the panels were covered in snow. Now those panels were fixed on the roof, and so they were a fixed angle. These panels I can change 3 times a year. These have they have a winter mode, kind of like this. They have a spring fall mode right like this, which is what they're in right now, which is about 45 degrees. And then they have a summer mode, which is a lot lower. And then they have a maintenance mode that's flat. But so when I was comparing what I wanted based on what I'd had, I said, I want double. So I looked at all that data, and I found that in the winter, when there wasn't snow on the panels, I was still able to, even on a cloudy day, produce about a total 10 kilowatts on average. Some days it would be 5, and then other days it would be 15. So I kind of looked at all the data, averaged out, and I said, okay, this system, I want to be able to produce double that for that time, because in the winter, if you have wood fire and you have an energy efficient home, we could get by as a family of 4, my wife, my 2 young kids, we could get by in about 20 kilowatts a day, according to my calculations. That could be to run a hot plate a bit, to, make some coffee in the morning, keep the internet going. It would be, we've got an HRV system that will be in the house. So it's primarily wood heat, but then we have an HRV system that distributes that heat around the house according to the design. So I kind of looked at all those things and said, yeah, about 20 kilowatts. So I said, let's just double it. So we essentially doubled. I'd say a little bit less than double. This is 20 kilowatts. That system was 11.5 kilowatts. And that's where I started. That was my starting point with it. So that's kind of where it's at. I mean, right now it's cool to see. We're mid-October. We've actually had quite a nice fall. It's been fairly sunny. Not a ton of rain, but we've had overcast, and it's cool to see that on those overcast days in the fall, when we're less than 12 hours of daylight, I'm producing right now. I couldn't even conceive of using all this power. I wouldn't even be possible. I'd have to run a compressor all day, all the lights on. I'd have to pump water I couldn't even conceive of using it all. And it's cool to see that at this point, that's where we're at. So it's working good. I'll keep you guys updated throughout the winter. But yeah, we've still got quite a bit of work on the home here. Or not home, on the shop. So kind of next stages, I've got some more framing guys coming in here soon. And we're going to be getting the roof on. We've got, it's all a metal roof. It's a standing seam roof where there's like a really steep slope on the overlap, and then it covers the bolts. It's a really nice roof. That's all going on. We're going to get this thing buttoned up. My windows don't arrive for a little while still, but we might just put some plastic in. But I've got a boom lift coming soon, and that's how we're going to get these rafters in, because these things are so damn heavy, and it's going to be fairly awkward to get them in, and we got to play around with it a bit. So we've got a boom lift that can stretch out 60 feet coming, and we'll get all these rafters in, and Tyvek insulation, all that kind of stuff. I'm not a construction guy, but I have to say I've learned a lot over the course of this year. But yeah, that's where we're going. Yeah, so I'll leave it there for now, folks. And again, if you want to become a member of From the Field and see all the stuff that I do here and follow along on these projects, that's where I post all my videos now. And the lifetime offer is, again, it's open until the end of this month. And one thing I forgot to mention is we accept crypto. We accept a number of cryptocurrencies. You'll see when you go and follow the link if you want to, which one you want to pay in. But I think it's kind of the classic ones like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, Monero, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin. I think those are the ones we accept. And yeah, I'd love to see you guys in there and join me for this ride. I think we've still got another. I'll be documenting this process over the next year or so, but I'm pretty sure by this time next year there'll be a lot more happening. We'll have the gardens, which I'm really excited to get into. This year I haven't really done much farming or gardening. I had of course, my garden at home in Kelowna right until the end. The new owners took possession at the end of September, and I had my co-op farm, but I wasn't as involved as I normally am because I was so focused on the project up here. But I'm really, really stoked to tackle the gardens next year. And actually, maybe just before we finish, I'll just explain kind of what's going on with my gardens. You can actually see from this angle, you can kind of see it better than if we were in there. Ignore all this scrap wood, but it's terraced. So we have a bottom terrace here, and because we're on a mountain, we're literally on a mountain ridge. Our property hovers over a mountain and over the ridge, and so we've got a bottom terrace here, and there's going to be fruit trees peppered all around here, fruit and nut trees and everything, bushes and vines and all kinds of stuff. But first terrace there is about 3,000 square feet, and then we've got a path that comes up, and we've got some other terraces in here. And there's some terraces even behind what you can see here too. Those are my roof trusses and floor joists, by the way, sitting there for next spring. They're covered up. But that's what's going to be happening. And so next year it's going to be building raised beds with our wood mill. We've got a Norwood Mills mill you can kind of see sticking out at the top of those roof trusses over there. And so we're going to be milling up a lot of the wood for these beds from the trees that I've harvested here on the property. I had to cut a number of trees down to clear an area for the garden. But yeah, we're going to be milling those up. Hopefully we can do some of that this winter too. And then we'll be assembling those in and then bringing in soil and compost and doing a little bit more of what you guys know me for. All right, folks, so I'll leave it there. And remember, if you want to join it From the Field Lifetime Membership is up now until the end of the month. Hope to see some of you guys in there. Take care.